So the USB drive that you put Ubuntu on, Luna was reminding me, if you can, it's a good idea to buy a special USB drive. They have USB drives that have a hardware switch on them that let you put it into read-only mode or read-write mode. And so if you can put that switch into read-only mode, then that's even more secure than just putting on a normal USB drive. They're not much more expensive at all than
I think to the left.
they're not much more expensive at all than a regular USB drive. I just picked one up the other day, so that's a good idea if you can do that. So
you would only use that for the flash drive you have the operating system on?
correct, yeah. You wouldn't use it for the other ones because you need to actually copy stuff to those. So yeah, that's fair to say. So that was the first part of the tutorial. If you go online, so I broke it into two parts, part one, part two. So that was part one. Part two, let's make sure there's nothing else that I want to absolutely add at the end of that. No. So part two, what we're going to do is we're going to skip to the point where you're sort of going into Ubuntu. So what we're skipping over is first, what you would do is we need to download the whole blockchain to actually retrieve the coins out of storage. So what I recommend is you, on another computer, you go ahead and download the BitcoinPHL client there for Mac or Windows. You, there's like a kind of a boosting step where you can download part of the blockchain over BitTorrent, which is just a whole heck of a lot faster. You can get like 3/4 of it that way. It's called the bootstrap method. And then you open up BitcoinPHL, let it finish off the blockchain, get the whole thing, and then you would copy that to yet another USB drive. And that one has to be a bit bigger. I recommend it's like a 32 gig USB drive because it needs to be big enough to copy the whole blockchain to. At the current rate, I figured out that 32 gigs would be enough to copy the whole blockchain until about January 2017. And the software will probably drastically change between now and then anyway, so that should be plenty good. So we can skip over all that stuff and not have an overnighter. I did that stuff beforehand. So this drive actually has the two blockchain files and also a wallet.dat file. So what we would do is after we finished creating the wallet address, take the USB drive out, we back up that encrypted file, whatever, turn the whole computer off. So let's just pretend we turned the computer off, and now we turned it back on, we went back into Ubuntu, right? So,
just as a heads up, we may only have 15 more minutes.
Okay.
If someone comes in.
all right, cool. This actually should not take long at all. So, so in this directory, see a couple of things. What I really want you to pay attention to is the blocks directory and the chain state directory. Those are the two things that I downloaded separately and copied onto here. And then the wallet.dat file is the backed up wallet file. And so what we would do is that other, so we would go into Ubuntu, decrypt our encrypted file container again and grab our backed up wallet file. We would copy and paste it into this directory here that contains blocks and chain state. Sorry about that. And can you turn this off for me actually? It's okay. And so, and then we would rename that backed up wallet file to wallet.dat because that's what BitcoinPHL is expecting. It wants to see blocks, it wants to see chain state, and it wants to see wallet.dat, which is the backed up wallet file that we created earlier. And then we're going to open up BitcoinPHL in kind of a special way. Rather than just double clicking on the icon, we would open it up from the terminal. So this is all online, so don't feel like you have to pay super close attention to exactly what I'm typing in. But go into the place that has the binary file, and then we're going to open up BitcoinPHL, but we're going to give it some parameters. So Bitcoin QT. We're gonna give it this parameter called data_dir, which is what we're saying to it is, normally you're looking for our files in the home directory. Forget about that. I want you to look at my USB drive where I have copied the blockchain files, where I've placed my wallet file, and that's what I want you to pay attention to in terms of loading up. So I'm gonna specify that, and my USB drive is called blockchain, and they're contained in the data directory inside there. The other thing that we'll have to do, so this is another kind of pain point of using Bitcoin QT. So if you just give it the wallet file and those two directories, Bitcoin QT will basically say, okay, I have the whole blockchain, but normally I would have downloaded that whole blockchain and like known exactly what addresses I need to pay attention to, and figure out the balance of your wallet and stuff like that. I didn't get to do any of that. So now I need to spend a few hours rescanning the blockchain. I don't need to be connected to the internet to do this, but I need to kind of look through the whole blockchain and make sure that I'm seeing all the transactions that are adding to the balance that are corresponding to this cold address, this cold storage address that we have. So it's got to do some rescanning of the blockchain. Normally that takes like 8 hours, but we can give it another parameter that can speed it up, called db cache, and usually the default is like 25. We could do like 200 or whatever, and that should like speed it up a bunch, so it takes like an hour or two. We're not going to do that this time, but that's just like a little trick to speed that way up so that it's not an all-day affair. And go ahead and open up Bitcoin QT. So it's opening Bitcoin QT, and instead of looking for it in its normal spot for the files, it's going to go ahead and load it right off of that USB drive. Normally this process would take several hours, but it's just going to take a minute or two with this process. And when it's fully loaded up, then it should be in good shape. It will have the blockchain almost completely downloaded. It may have to do like a couple minutes of catching up because there might be a lag time between when you copied it from one computer to over here. But for the most part, it should be in good shape. And as soon as it's caught up, then you can go ahead and send those Bitcoins to the next address. So once it's fully loaded, this is the point where you would go ahead and you would plug an Ethernet cable into your computer or connect to the wireless or whatever. At that point, it becomes a hot storage of coins that you have. And you can go ahead and send it off to wherever the coins need to go from cold storage. This will actually come up in a moment, but that's the main idea. So putting stuff in the cold storage, once you've got everything copied and you know about the process, it's pretty straightforward. I can do it very quickly to create a new cold storage address and send Bitcoins to that new address. Taking them out of cold storage takes a few hours, but it's not the worst thing in the world. So when you first go through this,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you because I missed when you said that DB cache. Was it DB cache?
Yeah. DB cache.
Where does that save you time? Just so I understand.
So this screen right here.
Yeah.
What we're doing right here.
You're
Normally it would take, if you don't use the DB cache, it's going to take like 8 hours.
Yeah.
What it has to do is it has to look programmatically. It has to start at the beginning of the blockchain and scan the whole thing very slowly to figure out what's been going on in the Bitcoin network that's relevant to the actual address that you have control over.
But what does it actually do? It looks for what you saved before?
It's looking for transactions involving your address.
Okay. Huh.
I'm hoping that
It's an 8-hour saving of time, like one line of code.
yeah,
Huge.
it's a pain. The reason why it's so slow is because it partly has to do with the fact that we're doing it all on the USB drive and just the way that they didn't design it to do this. Like the Bitcoin QT people weren't like, oh, well, let's make sure that we have USB support or whatever, right? So this is kind of a hack workaround thing that I figured out. But
that DB cache is on your tutorial?
Yes,
All right.
absolutely. So there will be no creativity involved with, following the tutorial. It's all just straight through. So this would just take another 30 seconds or whatever, but all that's gonna happen is gonna open up the Bitcoin PT window, and you can where you would be able to send Bitcoins and so forth. So that's I'll let it upload it, but do you have any other questions relevant to this stuff? Yeah, we're good.
One question. As far as
Yeah.
sending, this is something that's, inherently scary. I mean, you send the smallest
Right.
amount, I'm sure, just to test it out, but, so when you're offline, what you guys were talking about before, you send it to the address, and then when you bring it back on hot storage, does it come onto your wallet? I mean, like, how does it work?
Yeah, as soon as it's finished scanning through the blockchain, you'll see the balance up in that top left screen. This particular wallet, I don't actually have any Bitcoins
Sure.
in that address.
But if you send, a half a Bitcoin yourself while it's in cold storage,
Yeah,
you can feel assured once you bring it back to hot storage, it's gonna register okay.
yeah, absolutely. Definitely do go through the whole process with a small amount first.
Sure.